Hello there, friends. I am once more out at Riverfront Park. What a beautiful place to read. And I'll be sharing the next portion on delegating work. Easily one of the trickiest things to do at a company and as a manager. It's from the Harvard Business Review Press work on delegating work. Here's the book. And in my previous video, I shared the portion on building a foundation for effective delegating. In this portion, I'll be sharing what they wrote about preparing to delegate. If you haven't listened to the first portion, I suggest you go and have a quick look there and then come back here. In any case, we will begin this third portion, preparing to delegate. You may have a general idea about the project or task you'd like to delegate. But before making an assignment, you'll want to do some prep work. You'll need to note your reasons for delegating, determine exactly what work to hand off and what work not to hand off. Decide just how large a slice of the work you'll delegate. Is it just a task or an entire function? And specify the skills required to successfully complete it. Next, you'll identify the best person for the assignment and determine the level of authority to be delegated. Following all these steps may seem like overkill, but doing so will ensure that you make the right assignment to the right person for the right reasons and with a high probability of success. Let's walk through each step. Firstly, consider your reasons for delegating. As you're mulling over work you could assign to someone else on your team, take a moment to review why you're looking to delegate. What do you hope to achieve? Do you simply want to decrease your workload? Or do you need to offload lower-level administrative jobs so you can concentrate on a specific project, such as assessing the effectiveness of your staff's interactions with clients? Perhaps your objective is to motivate your team members and improve morale by increasing their levels of responsibility or helping them extend their capabilities into new technologies and processes. Maybe you have a combination of reasons. Carefully thinking through why you're looking to delegate will help you set clear goals when you make the assignment and more easily assess how well you've achieved your purpose once the assignment is complete. Goals in mind, you're ready to start flagging specific pieces of work you could delegate to others. Let's point out some of the preparation work is done not just so that the task can be completed, but so that at the end there is an ability to evaluate. You need to prepare for not only the task to be done, but also for your evaluation and judgment as to how it went at the end. There's a plane moving overhead, so we'll just pause for a second. Okay, I think the plane has gone now. Second portion, determining what and what not to delegate. As you assess your workload to see which tasks, projects, or functions you might delegate, consider two things to point out first. One, jobs that others could readily do, And second, jobs that require specific training or experience. Regarding jobs that others could readily do, although you probably enjoy some of the tasks that fall into this category, which can make them hard to give up, be open to delegating them. For instance, assigning a small task from an important project to a new employee eager for advancement could motivate her while providing you with insight on how well she follows through on assignments. Regarding jobs that require specific training or experience, delegating this type of work can give staff members interesting and challenging opportunities. For example, training a reliable team member to take over your role on an interdependent task force would increase the employee's collaborative and technical skills, as well as his visibility. For jobs you deem too important to delegate wholesale, consider ways you might share the responsibility with someone. Could you subdivide a task, project, or function so you handle a discrete part and delegate the rest? The following examples illustrate the importance of flexibility in determining what to delegate. Marisol, a department head, decided to share responsibility for a software evaluation project that has company-wide impact. She asked Larry, a member of her team, to request proposals from potential vendors and to track what came from where. Marisol then enlisted Larry's help in reviewing the proposals by asking for his feedback. But she took the ultimate responsibility for evaluating the proposals and for making the final choice of vendors. The next example. For a number of years, Yuan designed, administered, and documented an annual employee job satisfaction survey. After his promotion to manager, however, he lacked the bandwidth this sizable project demanded. Siphoning his time and energy from more pressing responsibilities and sacrificing his weekends to work on the project did not seem like attractive options. Yuan's solution: he formed a task force. Under his leadership and oversight, Emma and Kevin, two direct reports with solid analytical skills, took on most of the time-consuming parts of the job, such as survey developing and coding. When the final survey report was circulated within the company, Yuan shared the credit for its successful completion with Emma and Kevin. For jobs seen as boring or unpleasant, cleaning out files and making cold calls come to mind. Promote collaboration and a supportive environment by dividing tasks among your staff members and doing a few yourself. Also, use the delegation of less desirable work as a chance to seek input from your staff about the types of assignments they would find appealing. Not all work, however, can or should be delegated. As a manager, you must retain responsibility for activities such as the following. And they list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items here. Number 1, directing and motivating your team. That is your responsibility. 2, aligning your team's strategy with company goals. Number 3, evaluating employee performance. 4, helping your direct reports develop their careers. 5, hiring and firing staff members. Of course, every company handles that differently. 6. Handling complex customer negotiations. Even if the work is being done and delegated to others, negotiations and handling complex customer situations is still your responsibility. And lastly, they list performing tasks that require your specific set of technical skills. Once you've identified the type of work you'd like to delegate, you need to consider how much of it you'll turn over. Will you delegate just a single task or an entire function? Let's review your options. Choosing how much of the work to delegate. You have a general sense of the kinds of things you want to hand off. But as you narrow your options down, consider how much of the work you'll transfer. They split this into 3 considerations, which they call delegating by task, delegating by project, and delegating by function. Those are the 3 options. Number 1, delegating by task. Assigning specific tasks or subtasks, such as writing a report, conducting research, or planning a meeting, is the most basic approach. You'll probably want to start here, delegating a simple single task. Number 2, delegating by project. Assigning a group of tasks designed to achieve a specific objective is a broader approach than a task level description. Delegating by project, for example, developing a new employee handbook, conducting a customer survey, training employees on a new computer system, increases the scope of the assignment and it generally requires a staff member who can handle a wide range of responsibilities. Third, delegating by function. Assigning groups of tasks and projects related to one ongoing activity, such as sales, marketing, or training, involves delegating a particular function to one staff member who will provide you with regular updates within that function. For example, you might assign your resident IT expert oversight of networking systems for all projects. Now that you have a good idea of your goals and you've identified both the type and extent of work you'll be delegating, you're ready to assess the skills that are needed to ensure the project's success. Identifying the skills required. Before selecting the person for a given assignment, analyze the job and determine the skills it requires. During your analysis, answer these questions. And the authors list 3 questions. I like this book. It's very, very simple in the way it is written. All the blurbs are very brief, so it's very quick to get through it, though it's one of those things where you need to spend a little bit of time and effort practicing and going through it and putting your own pen to paper to get the best out of this. So hopefully you're all taking notes. Answer these 3 questions to identify the skills. What kinds of thinking skills are needed for this job? Does the work require problem-solving ability, logical thinking, decision-making, planning, or creative design? Right? Identifying the thinking skills necessary. Second, what are the activities that must be performed for the assignment, and what systems or equipment will be needed? Do the activities include creating a new database, for instance, or organizing, training, or developing? So that's the second. First was thinking skills. The second is the activities, the performance, what is the function? And the third portion, the third question is, what interpersonal skills are required, such as negotiating with suppliers, conducting interviews with experts, or handling delivery complaints with customers, right? What are the interpersonal skills? So the three again are thinking skills. What are the activities? What are the interpersonal skills? To illustrate this kind of analysis, assume your group has been asked to customize the user manual for the company's new intranet. So employees in various departments, from R&D to production to sales, will know how to use the features most relevant to their jobs. It's a corporate level project with company-wide visibility, but the deadline is way too imminent for you to undertake the project alone. Shauna, a bright, energetic new hire with manual writing experience, has offered to lead the effort. It seems like a perfect opportunity, but before assigning it to her, you carefully evaluate what's involved and identify exactly what skills the project demands. Through this process, you realize that the project requires deeper skills than Shauna has at this point, although they are skills she has explicitly told you she wants to develop. So, instead of delegating the entire project to her, you establish a project team with a more senior lead than Shauna to try to match her skills with specific project tasks that support the larger project. Her work on those tasks will then inform future assignments and help you identify training opportunities for her. When you have a number of assignments to delegate, it can be helpful to make up a log or spreadsheet on which you can specify your criteria for each proposed item. Expected results, deadlines, milestones, skills required, and so on. Use this tool to match people to jobs and uncover where training might be necessary. See, the spreadsheet is not only for assignment, it is also for assigning training. This activity will also help you track how often you're using one person for various types of job, so you can better balance the dream assignments and the drudgery. You have to balance those. Next, selecting the most suitable person. Once you know what's required for a task, project, or function, review the strengths and weaknesses of your staff. Recognize that not all skills are transferable to all situations. For instance, a great telephone sales representative may freeze in a face-to-face situation. As you compare the skills required with the characteristics and capabilities of your staff members, keep these factors in mind about each person being considered. The authors list a few things, which are, firstly, growth and development, development of new skills, 3, availability, 4, previous assignments, 5, assistance required, and 6, time on the job. Growth and development. In what ways could the work address the expressed interests and needs of your staff members to try on new roles and take on stretch assignments? Second, development of new skills. Consider how an assignment might challenge a staff member to expand his competencies. 3, availability. You may want to avoid choosing an employee whose work on a more critical project would be interrupted. That seems obvious, but sometimes in the rush of the moment, that can easily be overlooked. For previous assignments, try to delegate tasks even-handedly among your staff members to help improve the skills of each as well as to avoid the appearance of favoritism. That's a tricky one. That's one that you may not see and everyone else around you does. 5. Assistance required. Determine how much help would be needed from you for successful completion of the assignment and how much time you have available. And lastly, time on the job. Don't give new employees extra assignments until they're fully settled in. Continuing with the article, avoid delegating only to those people you know will accept added work without complaint. Reliable staff members may be flattered by your confidence in them, but without proper compensation or recognition, continually delegating to the same individual, even a willing one, can lead to resentment, absenteeism, and even defection. As you contemplate your options, don't hesitate to take advantage of the skills of more than one person. When you have a pool of resources to choose from, pairing people with complementary skills can help you achieve the best results. They list 2 points here. Firstly, ask a staff member with great people skills to conduct telephone interviews with customers, and a staff member with great analytical skills to examine the feedback and compile data. Another example, have a person with excellent writing skills draft the text for a new brochure, and a person with graphics and production skills to complete the layout and manage the final printing. Routinely keeping track of the special skills of your staff members and logging their skills into the spreadsheet discussed earlier will help you match people to assignments. For example, someone who can simplify abstract concepts might be a good person to conduct database implementation training, whereas an employee with good organizational abilities might be a suitable choice for overseeing warehousing operations. Also, to make the best use of staff resources and build your employees' capabilities, delegate to the lowest possible skill level required. When considering who to assign work to, don't overlook people beyond your own group. And don't forget your supervisor or your peers in other groups as possible resources. In some instances, you may save time and money and gain needed expertise by assigning work talent outside your organization, such as freelancers, consultants, or other temporary workers. This is one thing where, depending on your industry, this can or cannot be a possibility, or it will take different forms. Here's an example of how your selection process could play out. You'd like to ask Anil, an experienced logical thinking member of your staff, to research how customers are using a high profit margin electrical component your company manufactures. His objective would be to learn about possible new telecommunications applications. In addition to being familiar with the industry, to mine the data and to communicate his findings to engineering and marketing managers. The more you consider Anil, the better you feel about him as a candidate. Yet, you know there are other variables you should take into account. Anil's availability is one. He's expressed desire to take on this time-consuming project, but his existing workload is heavy. In addition, you'll need to provide him with extra help from within your team to ensure the project's successful completion. If you believe Anil is interested but too busy, but you still feel he's the right person for the job, you might reassign some of his current project work to another team member Or you could give Anil primary responsibility for the project and suggest he get help from one or two other staff members. Now that you have the right person, you'll need to determine what level of authority to grant him to allow effective execution of the assignment. The final portion of this section deals with deciding the level of authority to grant. The level of authority you choose to grant should depend on the requirements of the assignment, the employee's capabilities, and your level of confidence in the person you've selected. To determine the kind of authority you'll grant to your employee, number one, assess the employee's past performance in making decisions. Number two, consider the consequences of wrong decisions and decide what degree of risk you're willing to take. And thirdly, determine the minimum amount of authority your employee will need to complete the assignment successfully and efficiently. You may not want your employee to come back to you for approvals every single step of the way. The authors point out that several options exist along the broad spectrum of authority. You can decide that your employee may, and there are 5 points that are brought up. 1, make and implement decisions as needed without prior consultation with you. 2, make decisions as needed but notify you before implementing them. 3, make recommendations for final decision which you must then approve. 4, provide you with several alternatives from which you will make the final decision. And 5, provide you with relevant information from which you will develop alternatives and then consult with your employee to reach a decision. So those are the 5 different ways of going about getting a decision made and establishing the level of authority that they are going to take on. What might granting a specific level of authority look like in real life? Say you place Sai in charge of approving purchase orders for your unit. You specify a dollar limit within which he has free rein and a range of expenses that he can approve but must report to you. For all other purchase orders, he must research alternative products or services and review the requests with you. In addition to granting a specific level of authority, you can eliminate confusion and encourage initiative and problem solving by delegating responsibility to one person rather than dividing it among a number of people, even if you are delegating the work to a number of people. So even though the work is delegated amongst a group, the responsibility is delegated to a single person. Make sure every person involved clearly understands who is ultimately responsible for the outcome. For example, you might assign the responsibility for reviewing, approving, and submitting expense reports to one of your employees, who in turn asks a colleague to follow up with finance to ensure the reimbursements are made on time. Regardless of how follow-up is delegated, your direct report remains responsible. The final portion states, now that you've determined what to delegate, to whom, and at what level of authority, you can now proceed to the next step, which is actually assigning the work, making the assignment to your employee. And that is something that will be covered in the next talk. Thank you.